On television, first the headlines. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq greets the President of Czech Republic on his country's National Day. With the Sultan's participation, the Interior Ministers at the GCC Council discussed the security cooperation path and procedures taken to combat the coronavirus pandemic. And the Ministry of Health records 13 new COVID-19 fatalities and the total deaths rise to 1,203. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq has sent a cable of greetings to His Excellency Miloš Zeman, President of the Czech Republic, on his country's National Day. The 37th meeting of Their Highnesses and Excellencies, the Ministers of Interior at the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, discussed security cooperation march among the Gulf states. His Excellency Sayyid Hamoud bin Faisal Al Busaidi, Minister of Interior, took part in the meeting, which was held virtually. The meeting discussed a number of topics related to strengthening the existing security coordination among the GCC countries. The meeting also dwelt on the security procedures undertaken to combat COVID-19 pandemic. The Ministry of Health announced that the total number of recorded infections with coronavirus in the Sultanate is 113,820, while the total number of deaths reached 1,203 cases. The total of those recovered reached 99,997 people, and the cure rate is set at 87.8%. The ministry stated that the number of inpatients during the past 24 hours have reached 49, and the total number of hospitalized patients reached 435 cases. Of them, 182 cases are in intensive care. The COVID-19 pandemic cases are in an increase on both domestic and global levels, amid calls from the Ministry of Health to adhere to the precautionary measures. The COVID-19 fatalities in the Sultanate are also increasing on daily level, along with the numbers in intensive care unit. On the other hand, the procedures undertaken by the Supreme Committee dealing with the COVID-19 developments of closing down public places and commercial markets, as well as implementing night curfew for the last 2 weeks, had a positive impact on the situation in the country. After the end of the night curfew and the return of most of the activities to normal, it is necessary for all to take responsibility in public and private institutions to follow the precautionary measures and safety instructions in work environment. Still to come in our news bulletin. Recent studies reveal that Moon is richer in water than previously thought. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. And now for the international world, the United States yesterday imposed fresh Iran-related sanctions targeting the Islamic Republic's oil sector, including the Ministry of Petroleum in Washington's latest move to increase pressure on Tehran. The U.S. Treasury Department said it was slapping sanctions on key actors in Iran's oil sector for supporting the Quds Force the elite foreign parliamentary and espionage arm of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The Minister of Petroleum, the National Iranian Oil Company, and the National Iranian Tanker Company were also blacklisted along other individuals and entities in Washington's move yesterday, which freezes any U.S. assets of those blacklisted and generally bars Americans from dealing with them. Iranian oil exports rose sharply in September in defense of U.S. sanctions, according to 3 assessments based on tanker tracking, throwing a lifeline to the Islamic Republic and its collapsing economy. Billionaire Michael Bloomberg is planning to spend around $15 million on television advertising in Texas and Ohio during the final week of the presidential campaign to help Democratic candidate Joe Biden defeat President Donald Trump. Statewide ads in Texas and Ohio will run from tomorrow through Election Day next Tuesday. Bloomberg, the former New York City mayor who lost to Biden in a crowded field for Democratic nomination, previously vowed to spend up to $100 million of his personal fortune to support Biden in Florida through his super PAC Independence USA and other Democratic groups. The Texas ads in English and Spanish will focus on Trump's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Ohio ads will focus on the pandemic plus the economy of Biden's Build Back Better theme. As the second and 7th most populous states, Texas and Ohio are prizes in the state-by-state contest that decide the presidential race. The UN said today that the malnutrition among young children has soared to the highest levels ever recorded in parts of war-torn Yemen as coronavirus and shortfalls in aid funding worsen a humanitarian crisis. More than 500,000 cases of acute malnutrition among children under 5 were recorded in the south, and the results of a survey of the north currently underway are expected to be equally concerning. The Food and Agriculture Organization, the World Food Programme and the UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, said 15.5% increase in severe malnutrition in the age group has left at least 98,000 at a high risk of dying unless they receive urgent treatment. More than 24 million people, nearly 80% of the population, depend on some form of aid for survival, and this year the situation has deteriorated sharply. The novel coronavirus has killed more than 1.16 million people since the outbreak emerged in China last December. At least 43.51 million cases of coronavirus have been registered. Of these, at least 29.44 million are now considered recovered. The United States is the worst affected country with 225,739 deaths from 8.7 million cases. After the U.S., the hardest hit countries are Brazil with 157,397 deaths, India 111,502, Mexico 89,171, and the United Kingdom with 44,998 deaths. Europe has recorded 264,878 deaths, Asia 167,080, the Middle East 57,306, and Africa 41,528 deaths. At least 8 students were killed and scores more wounded today in the bomb attack at a Holy Quran study class at the religious school in northwestern Pakistan. More than 60 people have been taking a lesson when the explosion tore through the madrasa in Peshawar, about 170 kilometers west of Islamabad. Officials say the person who had brought in the bag left the lecture hall before the blast at the Jamia Zubairiya Seminary. All of the dead were men aged between 20 and 40. Teachers and boys as young as 7 were among the wounded. The loud blast, which could be heard across most parts of Peshawar, wrecked the school's interior and damaged the roof of the main hall. There may be far more water on the moon than previously thought, according to 2 studies published on Monday, raising tantalizing prospect that astronauts on future space missions could find refreshments and maybe even fuel on the lunar surface. The moon was believed to be bone dry until around a decade ago, when a series of findings suggested that our nearest celestial neighbor had traces of water ice in parliamentary shadowed craters as its polar regions. 2 new studies published in Nature Astronomy on Monday suggest that water could be even more widespread, including the first confirmation that it is present even in easier to access sunlit areas. If this water could be extracted, it could give astronauts traveling to the moon and beyond access to drinking water. They might even be able to split the molecules to make rocket fuel. The Municipal Council in the Governorate of Dhofar held its 6th meeting, during which it discussed a number of topics. The Council reviewed ways to enhance municipal works so as to serve public interest in the Governorate. The meeting was headed by His Excellency Sayyid Mohammed bin Sultan Al Busaidi, Minister of State and Governor of Dhofar, Chairman of the Municipal Council. His Excellency Sayyid Mohammed bin Sultan Al Busaidi, Minister of State and Governor of Dhofar, said that there are ambitions to improve the municipal councils and their performance as to make them capable of providing better services. He added that it is possible now, after some changes in the state's administrative apparatus, for the council to play a better role in terms of planning and providing services. He said that the members of the council now can be more accurate in practicing the authorizations that are given to them, as well as to benefit from them in serving the Governorate. In the Governorate of Dhahira, the Municipal Council reviewed the suggestion of developing Ibri Market and follow-up industrial land scheme in Amla village. The meeting also included presenting orientation show on the system of governorates and municipal affairs, discussing aiding an exit to the main road directed to Al-Dariz village and the phenomenon random parking of vehicles at the sides of the road. The meeting was presided over by His Excellency Najib bin Ali Al-Rawas, Governor of Al-Dhahira. This is the Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq greets the President of Czech Republic on his country's National Day. With the Sultan's participation, the Interior Ministers at the GCC Council discussed the security cooperation path and procedures taken to combat the coronavirus pandemic. And the Ministry of Health records 13 new COVID-19 fatalities and the total deaths rise to 1,203. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the studio and the newsroom, it's good night.